all three of you are professionals in this. You've been trained for this. You have degrees in this kind of that makes you well suited to this kind of work. You have lots of experience doing this. One question is, how do folks who don't have your backgrounds, how do say me or say Sarah, how do we interact with victims or survivors groups in a way that we're making sure that we're not re-wounding them? Right? Someone comes to you, you know how to interact with people who have come to you with this kind of issue. That's not something that you just know how to do. So is there any advice that you have for how to interact with victim survivors, for those of us who aren't trained clinicians? How do we interact with them in a way that either directs them in a way that is helpful, but at the very least is not re-wounding them?
I mean, one thought I have that I keep hearing from victim survivors is, I think we all have the capacity to listen. So if we start from that point of view of listening to the victim survivor, hearing what they have to say, making space for them to guide us as to what they need next, and even being transparent with them if we're afraid or we're not sure how to help, but that we want to help. I think that's a pretty good place to start.
So many cases when I talk to survivors or victims who are living it currently, is that they just want to be heard. And so often they don't have the platform or the safe environment to share their story. And you know, when I was working as an investigator for child sex abuse and fatalities, you see these kids, little kids whose voice are not able to be heard. And when we talk to survivors who are sharing their history, again, you can see that they are sharing with something that they weren't able to share before. And I think that along what Heather had said and earlier about trust building and relationship building, it really also starts with them knowing that you're actually listening to what they're saying. And I think that once they realize, people and families and relatives of victims of abuse, they all come together. It does take a village. And for so long, the survivors and victims have been alone. And part of them coming forward is their draw to community. And just coming off of Easter and dealing, walking through, and again, I'm not super holy, so my diocese who are watching this will be like, oh God, but Jesus, a lot of people say like Jesus walked the cross alone. These victims and survivors have their own cross. So we as a community coming together are helping carry that cross. They are not alone anymore. And I think that is part of how we facilitate that. But I think it's also important what Heather and Thomas said before, that our educating individuals with safe environment resources and information allows for community members to help alleviate the burden of being alone as well. And also bringing it out to the front. I mean, I think we all can say that growing up, or, not growing up, but being a part of this, one of the evolutions that we have seen, at least I have seen, I don't want to speak for anybody else, is that the subject of child sex abuse, regardless whether it's religion or at home, or has been hidden in the dark. Part of what I've seen in the Archdiocese of Washington with support of our advisory board, as well as, with the leaders too, is that this issue is being brought to the forefront, and we are blowing it up in lights because we're not ashamed to talk about it. We're here to eradicate it, and we're also here to support. So
I'm building on what you and Tom are both saying and thinking about, if somebody chooses to disclose first to a friend or a family member or an acquaintance at church, somebody that they just, for some reason, they feel safe disclosing there, it's startling information. You know what I mean? You don't expect to hear it necessarily. And then you feel this ominous sense of, oh my gosh, I've just been told something important that's hard to take in. And there can be a tendency to go, well, things like, are you sure? Or or, well, what exactly happened? Or, well, why didn't you tell somebody before? Your own discomfort with the disclosed information leads to, I think, Stephen, part of what you were talking about, this, what if I'm saying the wrong things? So, you don't have to understand it all to be present and to receive it. And I think Tom's statement about genuinely disclosing, like, I was not expecting that, or I had no idea, or it's a lot to take in. I'm getting my feet back under me on this. I don't know exactly what to say or do for you. What do you need? How can I help? That is so much better. And I would liken it very much to the same kind of discomfort people often feel about grief. It's like, if I talk about it, it's going to make them miss the person more, which, I think at some level we all know is completely erroneous, but we still fall into that, what should I say? What really matters is that you don't run away from it, that you don't shut it down or push it back or say something like, oh no, not Father so-and-so, he would never. Because that's very, very dismissive of someone who's just taken a huge risk and probably manifest their worst fears about making a disclosure.
And the only thing I'd add is you don't have to fix it.
You can't fix it, right? Not only do you not have to, but you can't.
Yeah.
So yes, to sort out what's your stuff and then what do you have to offer to this person who in their pain has reached out to you. Yeah. And as I said, we really try to see it as a gift. I mean, it's not a pretty kind of gift to get, but it's a gift because it's a statement of willingness and invitation to relationship. And that's where the healing can happen.
And also to build on Heather, what you just said is, it's a gift, but I say to my team, we talk about, it's a privilege. It's a privilege for someone to share their trauma. It means that they're ready to start the healing or look for help. And, I'm honored in our capacity as a victim's assistant person to help them facilitate that and put the proper and appropriate resources in place.
Yeah, and I'd even say that, I've often thought of it as that moment they call, it's the difference between either re-traumatizing them or offering them a step towards healing.
Right.